A warm welcome to Aviation this week on Channels Television. I'm Bukola Joe Oketumbi. The increasing cost in the price of Jet A1, otherwise known as aviation fuel, and constant fluctuation in the exchange rate are factors that could affect airline operations. On the program, both cargo and passenger airline operators bear their minds and suggest solutions that can help alleviate the situation in country. Plus, a report on the Ogun agro cargo airports. These are the regular fares on Nigerian routes now, whether it's Abuja to Akure or Lagos to Asaba. This situation has been brought about not just by the effects of the pandemic, but also by another crisis. Jet fuel prices soar following Russia's invasion of Ukraine.
Aviation is the backbone of the economy, and right now, if Jet A1 fuel is has been increased 10 times since the beginning of the year, making the airlines, making it very difficult for the airlines to operate and survive.
Firstly, the Naira has continued to depreciate, which obviously affects the price because it's actually calculated in USD. So that's had a negative effect. Secondly, prices generally across the world have continued to rise, so we've been hit twofold. One with the general price rise, and secondly the further currency devaluation. In terms of scarcity or availability, it's very difficult to source at the moment. Obviously, we have a number of suppliers, shortlisted suppliers, which we work with, but we cannot guarantee, or they cannot guarantee to us the regularity of supply. So it's been a very, very challenging couple of months. Lagos tends to be a little bit cheaper because the volume is here and the main infrastructure is here for bringing the commodity in. We're paying north of 650 a litre at the moment. In the outstations in the north, for example, and parts of the east, we're paying north of 680 naira a litre.
We are integrated, and because of a dysfunction in any part of the world, because of integration, globalization, will disrupt every other thing. For example, the supply chain from Russia, for example, they have significant impact. They are the second largest oil seller in the world, So imagine if their oil is not being churned out, easily. And then there's flight disruption, so global supply chain is having issues. In terms of aviation, the premium or a cost, insurance premium on aviation item because of the risk associated with this war, the price of aviation fuel has gone up.
For consumers, the increasing cost of fuel means higher travel expenses as airlines pass on rising costs.
I am flying at a very, very high cost. I don't know how many more people can afford to be able to fly like they used to be. And then the roads are not safe. Okay, you want to give me an option to use the road to Abuja? I mean, everybody, my family will just tell me that, look, we would rather do a donation for you to fly than for you to go by road, because we don't want to keep praying and, our heart and our mouth before you get to where you are going.
And that one is understandable because it's a global thing. There's a shortage. The Russia-Ukraine invasion is also a part of it. So, I would want to give them some concession for that one. But then, cost of aviation, Jet 1, cost of fuel generally, I think we should give them a concession for that one. But when things normalizes, when the prices of air fuel go back to normal, then they should be held liable if they choose to cancel flights unannounced or abruptly or causing delay.
Before now, local carriers have threatened to shut operations twice as operating costs soar out of control for the already fragile airlines. But the reduction of flight schedules has seen more passengers, but not enough to pay the bills.
We are stretched. Our financials are really stretched at the moment with the current prices. If there's any further deterioration in the Naira or an increase in the general market prices, that's going to hurt the airlines. So far we've been able to control our costs better to offset some of that increase, fuel-related cost pressure. But at some stage, if it continues like this, we need to look at the fundamental setup of our cost base. And, that could range from our staff base, staff strength, number of frequencies, and possibly size of fleet. What we've done as a partial offset at the moment is we're flying less, but with fuller loads. So we're a bit more tactical with our network and schedule at the moment.
So is there hope for the sector?
It's important that the government really have to step in, which I know, I'm aware that they are doing something. We have to be sincere and honest with ourselves. We need to come together in this very difficult situation and see how we can cooperate. Even the banks should try and, at this stage, help. The parastatals too should come in at this stage and say, well, maybe landing and parking will be suspended or reduced at this stage. Something has to be done, because this is a free fall situation where it's like we're on a slippery slope.
Across the world, jet fuel cost has jumped about 30% to levels around 96% higher than they were a year ago, according to data from the International Air Transport Association. The effects go beyond Nigeria, as the Russia-Ukraine conflict has reduced overall demand for air travel, especially in Europe.
We've been on the government's case for 3-4 months now. Despite their best efforts, we're still where we are today, where the price of fuel continues to increase. So if we were to sit down and wait for that, we'll probably not be around for much longer. We appreciate the efforts by the government, but it's not happening anytime fast or fast enough. So we have to find ways. We've been cutting our costs, trying to be more efficient, trying to be as thin as we can or as lean as we can. It's hectic. You have to find a way to ensure that your revenue is ahead of your operating costs. If your revenue goes below your operating costs for a sustained period, then you're on your way out. So we are doing everything possible to continue to derive revenue that pays for the operation. The problem is you're basically right now selling tickets to buy fuel. And there's so many other things you need to do as an airline. And to sustain all of those things, you really need to think out of the box, to be very smart with your costs, and to try to make sure that your revenue is ahead of your operating costs. The state is the shareholder. The airline runs itself. It's running. The state is not giving the airline money to run itself on a daily basis. The airline has run itself from start. So we're just like every other carrier. Where if we're unable to pay our way, we are going to be in deep trouble. All of us have to find the smartest sweet spot to get through this period. It's very important that an airline cannot run on the basis of, it's okay because the state is my shareholder, I can run to the state. It doesn't even have money. It has more than enough of its own problems. To run to the state means that you're not serious. You have to work to weather this storm. It's a major storm. It's our biggest storm since this is even getting worse than the lockdown of COVID, because it's sustained. The prices keep rising. So even if you calibrate it today, tomorrow there's 20 naira added. Tomorrow there's 20 naira added. So it's, I think it's stretching us. I know it's stretching the rest of the world, but I think our own is a little bit more hectic. We are kind of lucky. We have an efficient fleet. We don't burn as much fuel as everybody else. So those who don't have the kind of efficient fleet that we have. But nevertheless, it is still overly expensive, and we are struggling to keep up with our operating costs from our revenue. We have nowhere to run to. Let's even disabuse our minds from that. We have to run our business and run it successfully. So far, we're lucky, we've been able to, but the way this thing is climbing, at some point, somebody will probably give up. I don't know. It's that bad.
Cargo transportation is a very crucial segment of the Nigerian aviation industry and by extension its economic development. As at 2020, air cargo accounted for 35% of the movement of goods worldwide, and the International Air Transport Association recorded $6 trillion as airlines' contribution, out of which air cargo generated $111 billion. To push the frontiers of agricultural products moving by air, the Ogun State government began the construction of its cargo airport in the Peruremo area in 2021, a facility that was first initiated in 2007.
Since the governor of Ogun State came on board, one of his programs was economic prosperity, individual prosperity for the people of Ogun State. And this project was identified as one of those enablers that can lead to economic prosperity in Ogun State. And the governor also said this, that no project started by any of his predecessors that will add value to the people of Ogun State, especially economic value, the best interest of the people of Ogun State and our economy. This airport is one of such projects.
While the 5,000 square meters of land housing the airport is a construction area, the 4-kilometer runway is 85% complete for the Category E class airport.
The runway overall is 4 kilometers in length. Its total width 60 meters. So the main runway itself is 45, shoulders on both sides 7.5 meters. At the end of the runway, where you have the concrete turning part, you saw the thickness, the quality of the work ongoing. The concrete work is curing very well. You can't see any crack anywhere. So that attests to the quality of the work. We finished what is called the binder course, which is 130 mm of asphalt.
The runway is not the only infrastructure receiving attention. The control tower and fire station are also under construction, with the government's focus on building an aerotropolis.
The control tower is a 5-level control tower. We are now on the 3rd floor. So everything is being put in place to make it a unique control tower. Oh, it's going to be, there'll be a lot of construction going on. They work around the clock. And on the other side is the passenger terminal. You've seen the cargo terminal also.
Right from the scratch, we are taking on board officials from NCAA. We are taking on board officials from NAMA. We are taking on board officials from FAN. The Ministry of Aviation is also involved. So we want, with other facilities that are coming, for instance, the African Development Bank, AFDB, is setting up an agro testing center not far from the airport here, such that all agro produce to be exported out of this country will be tested and certified to have met international standard before export.
When the agro cargo airport is commissioned later this year, it will be accessible through 6 locations, which includes the Lagos-Shagamu and Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, among others. When we return after the break, ticket fares on foreign routes to take a hit as trap funds continue to swell. Do join us again. It appears foreign airlines may have started selling their higher inventory fares to get foreign exchange from the black market to repatriate their funds home. According to a former helmsman of the National Association of Nigeria Travel Agencies, airlines sell their ticket depending on the factors of yield and volume.
Airlines survive on 2 ways. Number one, they either sell in volume or they sell in yield. Now, true volume means that they will provide as many seats as possible and the price of tickets will go down. But when they go the process of yield, it means that they will still be able to make their money. It's just that it's going to now be dependent on few passengers flying, but flying at exorbitant rates. We as a nation will be spending so much on less value. And it shouldn't be like that.
And if things swing in the volume way, the prices will climb higher. For instance, a 6-hour trip to London may attract a fare rate of about $2,000 or more. And foreign airlines will also encourage tickets to be sold outside Nigeria, thus affecting the survival of Nigerian travel agents and consequent loss of taxes and levies from such transactions.
What will happen is we will start trading from the home country of these airlines. We'll start trading from outside Nigeria. Yeah, because I'm into business to make money. If I can't make money selling from Nigeria, I will definitely reach out to my counterparts in other parts of the world and start selling from their station. And once that happens, they are the one making the money and not me.
NATA says it's once more appealing to the federal government through the Central Bank of Nigeria to see to the possibility of reducing the large amount of trapped funds, which at the end of May 2022 is estimated at $450 million.
Human trafficking is a multi-billion-dollar industry, which translates to the third largest in the world as of September 2021. The International Organization for Migration said it has assisted in bringing back 21,500 stranded Nigerians from Libya, Mali, among others, in the last 4 years.
Irregular migration normally should not exist between Niger and Nigeria, or at all in the real context, because you have people under the wrong context travel for the wrong reasons or with half information. So you have people traveling without documentation to pursue a dream that is really based on wrong information. So when you have irregular migration, you have young people or even older people traveling out of the country without documentation, without a visa, trying to cross over to another territory without the requisite documents for them to do so.
For many of these returnees, Agadez in Niger appears to be a constant mention on the lips, as it is a transit town in Niger as many head for Libya. Last year, Niger and Nigeria signed a memorandum of understanding to stem the tide of human trafficking between both countries. Some 6 months down the line, critical parties to the agreement gathered to take a look at its implementation, seeking to put in place a long-term institutionalization of cooperation between both countries in the fight against human trafficking.
Fighting human trafficking, maybe it's the most difficult thing in the world. These human traffickers are quick, they are very smart, very vigilant, so it's not an easy job. And that's why you really need each other, because if you go to one place, they go somewhere else.
Our prosecution is not commensurate to the cases that are coming up, so we need to step up effort to ensure that we do a lot of awareness creation, particularly to rural communities all across Nigeria for prevention. We need to do more in the area of protection of the victims, of the survivors of trafficking in persons, as well as providing compensation for them to resettle them.
This regional approach will also take on the process of structurally linking research, migration dialogues, as well as capacity building, which will contribute to better policy development.
Looks like a onesie, like, a kid with a onesie and the thing here, because it was so big, because it wasn't made for, for females.
Meet Shafilwe Ledwaba. She's South Africa's first black female helicopter pilot for the police service. It's been a journey for the 40-year-old who first had eyes for the medical profession after bagging a degree in biochemistry.
It was only after I finished university that, due to a whole lot of circumstances, I ended up in an airline as a cabin attendant. And that's when I started getting exposed to the aviation industry even more and understanding what it was. So that initial flight, that ignited that initial interest. And when I started working for an airline, and I found this fascinating career, and I thought, I can fly.
With over 20 years of practice as a helicopter and fixed-wing plane pilot, as well as a flight instructor, Refilwe is looking backwards to groom those who will fill her shoes with her Girls Fly Program Africa Foundation.
So we wanted to create, initially sort of a similar platform where young women can see other women that look like them, doing, a career like that. Number two, information as well is important. From a very young age, they know that aviation or space industry is a career choice for them.
We joined this year's camp for flight simulation tour.
Right. More. Pressure.
Okay.
Heavy. No left. Yeah.
This is the first time that I'm doing something like this, so I'm excited. Like, it's the first time. I don't even believe it.
Being in the simulator was very exciting but nerve-wracking at the same time. This experience was extremely mind-blowing. Very interesting but also mind-blowing.
More than 100,000 young girls, mostly from rural communities like Refilwe in Botswana, Kenya, Cameroon and South Africa, have participated in this pipeline program, which comprises schools' outreach programs as well as experiential workshops and camps like this. Refilwe says,
we've got aeronautical engineers that are in the workplace. We've got young girls that are doing masters in aeronautical engineers in the UK. We have girls that have become air traffic controllers. So there are a lot. And if you go on our website, we actually profile them.
The Girls Fly Program Africa also mentors boys on their schools' outreach programs. But Refilwe believes that for Africa to be even greater, there must be a deliberate focus on girls to change mindsets, even theirs, on what's possible.
Planes loaded with supplies. Flying small planes is only a hobby for 35-year-old Rene Lorman. But now, he regularly embarks on 3-hour-long trips to Poland to deliver medical aid to victims of the war in Ukraine and to take Ukrainian refugees with special needs back to Germany.
We're flying to Poland today. We have an aid shipment with us for Ukraine, mainly medicines. On our way back, we're going to take passengers with us. We'll take them to Bonhangla. These are passengers who can't be easily transported over land because they have serious health problems. Some of them are probably children. You can never be 100% sure about what to expect. You just have to see.
Lorman is part of a private organization of 5 German pilots who have organized an air bridge with their planes.
There are medicines for cancer patients, first aid for those with broken bones or fractures, styptic drugs and medicines that need to be refrigerated, such as insulin. That's why it has to be shipped as soon as possible.
Once all supplies are loaded onto the planes, the pilots take off for the 3.5-hour flight to Rzeszów, about 1,000 kilometers from Mainz.
The challenge in regard to the Ukrainian border is that we are flying to the airport that is also a large NATO base. Our small planes are not so welcome there. We have to arrange everything. We have also come to an agreement with the airport there. We are staying in close contact with it so that everything will go smoothly.
At Rzeszów Airport, Ukrainian refugees with special needs were waiting to board one of the planes to Germany.
We have already carried out 20 flights and we transported around 20 persons. Those were people with special needs, ill people. Today, we are taking a stroke patient to Cologne.
Among those who boarded were an elderly man and a woman with her autistic sister. Another plane took on board an elderly woman with mobility issues and a mother and her teenage deaf-blind son. The pilots flew their Ukrainian passengers to an airport in Bonn, in Germany, where they were to receive further support.
That's all on the show today. Join us next week for another edition. I'm Bukola Joe Okitumbi.